And welcome everybody to another edition of the EGlaze Chronicles. I am EGlaze. This is the 93rd edition and very special edition of the EGlaze Chronicle. I'm sorry for the delay. Uh, had to fix some technical issues. You know how technical things get. But want to welcome everybody to our show. I am proud to be able to do this show because it is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Got the Crush Cancer shirt, and I have a very special guest with me today. A lot of y'all, she's the lead therapist of Becoming Your Best Therapy, Counseling. She's also a mother of two beautiful daughters, Nia and Nadia Glaze, and the wife of yours truly, Emmanuel Glaze. And we're going to tell you, well, she's going to tell you her story today. Jennifer went through, we could say, that one of the most interesting years of her life recently. And she wants to tell it, and I'm glad we're able to do it. So first, let's welcome my wife, Jennifer. How are you today, ma'am?
I'm doing well this morning. Thank you.
Okay, so let's go ahead and just jump into it. When did you get diagnosed?
I was diagnosed officially on Friday, May 6th of 2022. Sorry, 2022. So a matter of months ago, a few months ago.
So you went from, and that, if just let everybody know, that was Mother's Day weekend.
Yes. Yes.
So when you got to the news, that, tell us how it went down that Friday. We'll get to how you got to that point, but just that weekend in general. Talk about how it went down, how you felt, and all of that.
Okay, sure. So it's a typical Friday. I was working, seeing clients in the office, I'm sure virtually and face to face in the office. And I had kind of, I knew that to kind of expect the phone call, but honestly, I wasn't really pressed about it. I knew I had the biopsy. I knew I should be getting results soon, but I wasn't really stressed. I figured that everything was going to be okay. Okay, so as we all know, when we're working, we usually have to rush and get lunch and kind of squeeze that in. So I'm typical. I just happen to be running out of the office, going to get, I don't know, I don't want to give a shameless plug, but going to get some food at a local fast food place, a little salad with a little chicken on top. That was my usual thing. And in doing that, I noticed that I had a phone call, a return, a message from the doctor. So I'm driving and calling and, not thinking of it. And they were like, okay, well, let's see. I think the doctor left for the day. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, this probably won't happen till Monday. Fine. And next thing I know, the doctor jumps on the call. And she said, she makes some real quick chit chat. But then she goes into, unfortunately, the biopsy did come back as cancerous. Oh, wait, let me make one change. She told me to pull over. She could tell I was driving.
Wow.
She told me to pull over. And I'm like, okay. Like, that didn't sound too good. But in my mind, I'm still thinking everything's okay. She told me to pull over. She told me that the biopsy did show cancer. She went into detail. Because I guess I did a biopsy on both breasts. I don't remember those little details, but she told me at that time that I had invasive lobular cancer in my right breast and invasive ductal cancer, or carcinoma, I should say, in my left breast. She went in to say on the phone now that she was referring me to a breast cancer surgeon and that I was either looking at a lumpectomy or a mastectomy. And I'm like, wait a minute. Like, this is a lot to ingest in a quick ride to the fast food restaurant down the street, lady. Like, how do you know? I'm like, what is going on? It was a lot to ingest. I remember taking notes on the back of a receipt that I just happened to have in the car. She said she had been in touch with my primary care. There were 2 local places that she recommended, and it was, I could pick whichever one I preferred, but I should get on this as quickly as possible. And the phone call ended. So I had to quickly absorb as much of this as I could. I know I dropped some tears, but you got to remember I'm on my lunch break.
Yeah. Right.
I had a client waiting for me it had been like, maybe 45 minutes, but after this, it was like 15 minutes before it was time to talk with that particular client. I'll never forget. And she still sees me, so I must have said some decent things, but it was a whirlwind. I had to call her, ask her to give me 15 minutes. Something came up, give me 15 minutes. I'm going to be 15 minutes late. I had to suck it up, dry my tears. Still had to get my food because I was still hungry. And I had to get, eat a little something, get back over there and get back to work. I still had maybe 3 clients for that day. So I struggled through. I had to just push that out of my head, focus on those clients and get through the day. I remember that evening was really difficult. And as you mentioned, it was Mother's Day weekend, the Friday before Mother's Day. And we both had a lot of activities planned for that weekend. And all I kept thinking was, if I share this diagnosis, it's going to ruin the plans that we have. So I made the decision to keep the diagnosis to myself until all of the festivities were over. So that Friday night was tough. Like I really couldn't sleep. And if anybody knows me, I'm a sleeper. I have no problems going to sleep. So but I couldn't. My mind was racing. I was tossing and turning. So that was probably one of the hardest nights to get through. And if I remember correctly, I think I had like clients first thing the next morning. So I really needed sleep. I just couldn't. But once I got through that day, I was able to get through Saturday and then Sunday. And it wasn't until Sunday evening, when you came home from your Mother's Day activities, late that evening, I'll say maybe 8 or 9 o'clock, you were the first person that I told about the diagnosis.
It was amazing. Thank you, Kim. And yes, you can ask questions, do this in comments. We appreciate all of it. Thank you, Kim. She said, 2 of you are amazing. Thanks for sharing with us, Jennifer G. We appreciate
it. Kim.
What was amazing about that weekend is that you did selflessly hold that whole information, even though you probably could have shared. We did have activities. Me and our youngest was going out of town, and you were working with your mom as well. And at the time, we were we didn't know,
right?
But and that's I to this day I always say thank you for being selfless. You decided to do this because me, if I'd have found out, I'd be like, stop the presses. Hey, we got some issues. I ain't going to work, but you took your clients, and that's an amazing thing about you and doing that. Let's get to the point. Let's get to how did we get here. So take us back to when you started this journey of this breast cancer, when you were getting inklings of this may be breast cancer and all that. So tell us when it first started.
Okay, so just to back up, like most women, I can't stand going to get mammograms. It's my least favorite thing to do. I've avoided it as best I could. But, I started at 40, or I think almost 41, because I'm a little on the rebellious side. So whenever I would go, I'll go to the same place every time because they have all my records. But what would happen is the first time I went, when they said, okay, no problem. Then the next day they were like, can you come back? We see something. We want to take a second look. I'm freaking out. I'm like, okay, I'm dead. It's a wrap. Let me get my will. Let's get some stuff in order. I really freaked out. I remember telling my boss, like, I have to take some time off. I have to go back. I'm a little nervous, blah, blah, blah. Went back, went for a second look. I think they did an ultrasound and they said, oh, okay, we're looking at what we saw was concerning, but it's just a cyst. No problem. So, okay, that was a total relief.
Right.
Well, what ended up happening is this was my routine. Pretty much every time I went for a mammogram, they would call me back. And what they told me later is because of the density of my breast tissue, it makes it hard to see some of the images. So that became my routine. So they would literally, every time I would go, they would call me back. So over time, you still get that little inkling, but you're like, okay, this is just what we do. Okay, fine. So then COVID hits 2020. I didn't go see any of my doctors. I didn't do any of my wellness checks. I think most people didn't.
Right.
If you remember back to that time, really, unless it was severe, they would tell you to stay out of the doctor's offices, out of the hospital, because they were just overloaded. And I also made the commitment that 2021, when things mellow out, because things were mellowing out towards the end of the year, I was going to start back and do all of my checkups. And that's exactly what I did. About spring of 2021, I started with primary care. Okay, that's the basics. Let's go there. So I'm in the exam and the doctor is doing a breast exam and she feels a lump. And she's like, okay, long story short, she's like, that's your priority. I want you to go get that checked out. Fine. I'm being cooperative. I'm not necessarily the best patient. I'm not necessarily the most cooperative, but I said, let me go ahead and do it. Fine. So let me think. So again, we go through this routine. We do the mammogram. They call me back. They say, okay, everything looks good. But it was spring. This point, they said, come back in 6 months. They didn't say the regular 12-month routine, which is typical. They said, come back in 6 months. So I'm like, okay, that's a new one. But okay, fine. I'm going to come back in 6 months. So I'm not quite sure exactly how that worked from spring, but I know I had another mammogram in January 2020. I think I had one in between there. I can't quite remember, but I know January 2020, I had another one.
21 or 2020?
2022, because it was spring of 2021 when I went back to the doctor. I think I had one somewhere in between there, but just to be honest, that's also when, we had some family changes. My mother moved down from Illinois to Georgia. There was a lot going on.
Right.
I don't know, but I knew I had in the back of my mind, they said come back in 6 months. So I think I had one in between. I'm not sure, but I know January 2022, I went back for a mammogram because at this time, same routine, come in, check it. Oh, we need to see you back. Okay, fine. But then after that one, once they gave me the all clear with the second mammogram, I got a letter in the mail that said, we need you to come back in 3 months. Okay, this is odd. This is new. But again, I'm going to go ahead and follow through. At that point, so I had another appointment for I'll say April. It was April, like mid to late April of 2022. So this time I go in for the mammogram. If anybody's had one, they want to do a bunch of images, but this number of images was more than I had ever experienced. It was, and they kept repeating a lot of the images because what happens is they'll do the images and then they send them there's a doctor somewhere off in another office. He's reading them, I guess. And if there's something that he doesn't like, he asked the tech to redo an image or get a different angle. I was in there for an hour. This was the most I had ever had these different images. I was, like I said, I was twisted like a little pretzel or something. And I'm like, okay, what is going on here? So then they always put you in this room and they say, just have a seat, we'll be back with you. We want to chat with the doctor. Okay, fine. So this time they actually said the doctor wants to chat with you again. Oh, that's a new one. Okay. So no problem. They pull me in a room. These are all new experiences now. They pull me in a room. I actually see the doctor who's looking at my images. And he introduces himself, very pleasant. And he says, there's some things on your mammograms that I'm a little concerned about, I'd like to refer you for a biopsy. Sure. I'm not going to deny that process. Let's go ahead. And I said, let's just go ahead and rule out what we need to rule out. Sure. So we talk, we get everything set up. The biopsy was actually May 4th of 2022. They sent me up to the hospital, work with a great lady, work with a great doctor. And that's the same doctor who called me 2 days later on May 6th, 2022, when I was running to go get the food. That's the doctor who gave me the breast cancer diagnosis.
Thank you to Sharon. Says, what a brave and strong woman. And also Facebook user saying, standing in prayer with you, Jen. We appreciate the comments. Any questions, comments, please post them. We'll read them on here. What was your initial thoughts?
I think I was just numb. I think I was numb.
Once you got the sandwich and the clients out there, what were your
Right?
initial thoughts? Oh, not the sandwich, the salad. Let me make sure I put that out. What were your initial thoughts when this when you took a breath and said, okay, what went through your mind when this hit?
I tried to stay away from the why me, because I knew that there was a purpose in it. Honestly, in my mind at that time, cancer meant chemo and chemo meant no hair. And I didn't want to go through no hair.
Yes.
So I even found myself, thinking about that. And I'm like, that's petty. That's vain. Don't be like that. But I had so many different thoughts rumbling through my head.
Right.
And I just didn't really know where to focus. I think my biggest thing was I need to talk to the doctor. Let's see what's going on. Let me get some questions. I had a lot of questions. I will say that. I had a ton of questions. How? Why? What's going on? How did we get here? How long have I had this? What stage is it? What I got to do? It was just it's just a whole bunch of stuff rambling through your head. And I don't know how it can be any other way. I tried to stay calm. I stayed very prayerful. I think that's the only thing that really did keep me calm. But I tried not to panic because remember, I'm in a helping profession. I can't really lose it. Right. I've got to stay focused and channeled, not only for me to be in the type of situation where I can help them. I've got to be pretty clear on what's going on with me. Right. So it was difficult. There was a ton of prayer. One of the things I hated about this whole process is that it seemed like it took forever to get to these doctor's appointments. They'll make you an appointment. It's 2 weeks out, 3 weeks out. It's like, and that time period is agony. Because in my mind, let's go ahead, let's deal with it, let's knock it out, let's do it. That's best for me. That's best for the cancer. That's best for my family. Let's get with it. Like, why can't we get these appointments together? So that was kind of an agonizing piece. The big agonizing, honestly.
Let's talk about the diagnosis has happened. You found out you have it. So we go to the first doctor. What was the first doctor you saw after this? Yeah.
Okay, so the first doctor was the breast cancer surgeon and it was up in Woodstock. There's this building that actually I'd been in that building before, but just a variety of different medical professionals in this building. So it was at least a comfortable environment. Right. But we went in and the staff was great. I think it was an all-female staff. Yes, my husband joined me, which was helpful. We had a ton of questions. Everything was new and similar yet foreign. The equipment in the rooms are similar doctor to doctor, but this type of doctor, breast cancer surgeon, that was new. And then I was like, why I got to have a surgeon? Why y'all got to cut me? That was kind of my thing. Why y'all got to cut me? And how you got to cut me? And blah, 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 blah. So that's what's going on in my mind. But as a doctor comes in and she starts talking, she shows me my paperwork. She shows me different things and measurements and the estimated stage and the grade. And she explains to the best of her ability with my limited medical knowledge. But she really helped to calm my nerves. She really, and her staff, they calmed my nerves. They answered a ton of my questions. They really helped me focus and kind of channel. But to be honest, I really still had some disbelief at that point. I had not fully absorbed it, but there was something else they wanted to do. I think maybe the MRI or the body scan to kind of confirm everything, which I felt was a good way to go.
Right.
And so they set me up for that. Again, it was probably like 2 more weeks. Jesus. But that's what we did. That's what we had to go through. And then at that point, we would come back and talk about the plan of care. She didn't really, even though she was a breast cancer surgeon, she was, explaining what the options were, but she was like, let's wait until we get that information to actually create a plan. That made me feel better because if she had just come in and start, setting me up for an appointment to get cut, I'd hold, wait a minute. We're not going to do that. So she really kept a pretty good pace with me, and I appreciate her for that.
So we get to the MRI comes back. It's confirmed everything that she said, and they gave us options. And I said it gave you. I say us because I was in the room too. Like I don't understand none of this medical stuff. I'm like, yeah, whatever. But they gave us options, and you had to make that decision. I can honestly say I think the second appointment with the surgeon is when it hit you the hardest.
That's when
I think that it's you realized, okay, this is real. I mean, it was real before, but now
it was really real.
Yeah. So
as of that day, yes.
Visit after the MRI, you were like, okay, this is it. Talk to us about that feeling, and talk to us about the procedures that you said, okay, this is what we're going to do, and this is what we agree upon.
Yeah, it didn't feel good. It didn't feel good to get that confirmation because not only was it the confirmation of the breast cancer in both breasts, they saw with the MRI, which gives them the image. That's the one where you have to like sit in this huge machine and stay still for like 30 minutes to an hour. It's not the most pleasant thing, but that's what you have to do. That body scan confirms everything. And not only did they see what they saw in the mammogram, they saw more. That didn't go over well in my brain. I was, oh God, so that's when the tears started. That's when it really hit my brain. You have cancer. Right. You have breast cancer. You have to get it together and figure out how to handle this. So again, they were great in that we discussed a lot. We discussed the placement, where it was. She discussed that lumpectomy was it was a possibility. The problem with lumpectomy was that I was not a full bosom woman. I did not have a lot of breast tissue to work with. And what I knew in my head is that whatever happens, I want to still look somewhat like I looked before all of this. So in my mind, if you take a lump here and a lump here and a lump there and a lump there, like what am I going to be left with?
Right.
And I felt that what I was going to be left with wasn't going to have me looking at all like how I looked. In fact, I felt like it was going to have me looking worse. So we talked lumpectomy. We talked mastectomy, which is the total removal of the breast tissue. And then we discussed mastectomy with reconstruction. And reconstruction means removal of the breast tissue, but then other options to create breast for the woman. Those are the basic 3 options that you have. We discussed them freely. We discussed the pros and the cons. So I remember in that appointment, I said, I think it's best to do mastectomy with reconstruction. They didn't push it. I literally saw them say it and then do like this. And they stopped talking. So they really made it and allowed it to be my decision. They didn't push what we think. I don't ever remember them saying, I think this would be best.
No, they never did. They just said, we recommend. They did recommend and the reasons why. But I
don't even remember them recommending before I said what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe they did, but to me, they really made it my decision. They weren't pushing like, you should do this. Don't forget this.
Yeah.
You need to do that. Like, they weren't
No,
pushing me in a certain
they didn't
direction.
push it all. They didn't push
No,
it all.
they did not push. And I noticed that, and I appreciated that.
Yeah.
Because I'm the one that's got to live with it.
Yeah, exactly. So what was great about that surgeon is they also got you in contact with, because for the reconstruction, that was a whole different surgery as well, because now you have to bring in another doctor who's a plastic surgeon.
Yes.
And bring them into the fold so that they can work together. And so you decided mastectomy with the reconstruction, which means now you got the breast cancer surgeon and you got to bring in the plastic surgeon, which both were awesome. Right. Talk about that process of finding someone, just let's take it here. So we find the doctors. Okay.
Yes.
We decide to go with the surgery, and you decided, hey, this is best. Talk about the time frame and everything they told you was going to take to get this done.
Okay. Again, it was weeks, but also I knew we were kind of under a time crunch. But the issue with this was that they told me basically 2 surgeons would be working on me at the same time. And they would have to coordinate the schedules of both of these 2 surgeons.
Right.
So I was like, oh God, how is this going to work out?
Yeah.
But that was something that they did behind the scenes. But they gave me the referral to the plastic surgeon, which was a doctor I never thought I would ever encounter. One thing I knew was like, okay, a plastic surgeon is not a doctor who's going to be on my radar. Lo and behold, she was. So I got the referral, went down to see her. Actually, me and my younger daughter went to meet her for the first time. I was mainly concerned about the pain aspect. I was, because in my mind, forgive me and my ignorance, but I'm just like, y'all are just like chopping off pieces of my body. That's got to hurt. Like, that's got to be significantly painful. I was really worried about the pain factor, the recovery piece. That I probably, out of all of everything that I've gone through, that was the scariest piece, is getting ready for the surgery. Also, they told me that it was going to be a 7-hour surgery, but let me back up a little bit. So when I was talking to the breast cancer surgeon, they introduced the idea of what they call a deep flap surgery, which for the reconstruction piece, which was basically they would take my lower abdomen, basically my fupa that I couldn't, for whatever reason, I could not get rid of through diet and exercise. And maybe it was a blessing. Sounds like it was a blessing in disguise. I just didn't know. But because I still had a good amount of abdomen fat available, they were going to take that tissue and basically bring it up and create breasts. So that is essentially what they did. So the breast cancer surgeon would, at surgery, remove the breast tissue. She would do some testing. She would test under my arm for lymph nodes, check for cancer, yada, yada, yada. But once she was done, I think her part was only like 2 hours. Once she was done, then the plastic surgeon would come in, remove the tissue, and bring that back up here. The positives of that was that it was my same tissue. There was less chance of rejection since it is my tissue. Because sometimes when you do implants, there's chance for your body to reject it. There's more chance of infection. There's a lot of things that can just go wrong with that surgery. This surgery, although it's more extensive, and I believe the recovery time is longer, it's considered to be a safer transition, but it's hard on the body.
Yeah.
So I had to do some clearances, and the one clearance everybody wanted to get their hands on was the cardiologist. I was like, oh, we can't do anything until we hear from the cardiologist, blah, blah, blah. And the cardiologist, if I remember correctly, was like one of the last clearances I got. But once I got that clearance, like, everybody wanted it. The insurance company wanted it. All the doctors wanted it. And I was like, all right. And then that kind of freaked me out a little bit too, because I'm like, y'all really acting like I'm getting ready to croak on this table. Like, what do y'all know that I don't? What do y'all know that I don't? But again, I just had to exercise a whole lot of faith. Just keep my focus on my faith, my belief in God, my belief that he was going to carry me through, and get ready for this surgery. I knew it was a 7-hour surgery. I knew it was an all-day procedure. My prayer was to make it off the table and make it off the table in my right mind. Even if the reconstruction didn't work out for whatever reason, in my mind, I didn't really care. I just wanted to be able to come off the table. If I ended up with no breast, I was okay with that. I just wanted to be able to continue to live my life.
What was amazing about that, these are 2 major surgeries in
Yes.
anybody's life. If you do a breast cancer surgery, which was removing the breast and removing it out the cancer, that's a major one.
Yes.
And doing reconstruction like this, these are considered 2 major surgeries that would have had required overnight stay no matter what. But all in one day, which was probably one of my longest days. But every time a doctor would come out, I would jump up, and and it, like you said, at the end of the day, I just wanted to hear she's doing fine. She's up in the room, even though we got funny pictures of you after the surgery, but we won't post those. But
please don't.
We just got that. And so I wanted to talk about that. We have the surgery. You wake up. You're in the hospital room. We do it. Was it 2-night stay?
2-night stay. Yeah. So the night of the surgery, and then one more night.
My dad say, looking great, Jen.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So the process of recovery. Talk about surgeries happen. We total double mastectomy with reconstruction. They've taken parts out of your lower abdomen. They've done some cuts here and some cuts there. The process, the recovery process. Talk about that.
That first week and a half was rough. I was sore. Just like seemed like everywhere I moved was just soreness. Like I could never get comfortable. So you're right. I had basically 3 transplant areas, each breast and my abdomen. So each one of those also had a drain. Those drains were a bit of a nightmare, even though it kept me, healthy and kept me from getting infections and all of that stuff. But it took a lot of work. So as each of these sites are healing, it's draining fluids. It's draining, I don't know, whatever it's taken to heal. So we together had to not clean the drain, but empty the drains. We had to empty the drains every day. In the beginning, I think it was maybe 2 or 3 times a day. And then I think by the end, it was once a day. The drain on the abdomen was the one that took the longest. But I was sore. It was painful. I say painful, but it was just a lot of soreness. I couldn't really get comfortable. And in the hospital, they had to check my breast tissue every hour on the hour to make sure it was still alive. That's just part of the healing process. So then when I got home, my mind was still on that hour. Every hour, I couldn't really rest. So it took quite a few days for me to kind of come on down and really rest and relax and just, I don't know, just focus. The pills, nonstop pills. I even had to give myself a shot once a day. That was not my favorite, but I made it through. What was that?
You had to do a shot for every day for a week, right?
Yes, 7 days.
So that was June. The surgery was June.
Surgery was June 21st.
June 21st.
Northside Hospital, Northside Cherokee.
It's October 15th. Percentage-wise, we'll talk about some other things, but as far as from the surgery and all that, where are you at percentage-wise?
For the surgery, I think I'm a good 85% healed. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, they said 3 to 6 months. That's what I heard. So it's about right, because it was like I said, it was 2 major surgeries. It was
Yeah.
breast cancer, mastectomy, and reconstruction. So that's about right.
Sometimes I still feel a little funny with my abdomen. Sometimes I have weird little feelings. Sometimes I have weird little feelings with the breast tissue, but nothing like it was. Like this was like I remember telling friends, like it felt like I had a underwire bra under my body. If any woman who knows what an underwire bra feels like, if you just go to the store and feel one and feel the wire, it's hard. It's tough, but it's firm. And that's how they felt. Now over time, and I've had to do different things with the breast tissue, they're much more natural feeling. Like now I don't feel them, but back then, yeah, I could feel them constantly. And I really wasn't crazy about it. I was grateful to have breast tissue, but I really wasn't crazy about that. But over time, it's gotten much more natural. I don't know what they did. I don't know how they did it, but they worked a mini miracle.
Yeah.
They really did.
It was an amazing process. I didn't understand it, but it was continual surgery for 7 hours. It wasn't to take a break.
Right.
It was
No.
Once the cancer surgeon got done, the plastic surgeon, so you were being worked on up here and down here at the same time.
Right. And remember, my plastic surgeon, it was a team. It was a plastic surgeon, man and a woman, and the female was pregnant at the time. She was good and pregnant because she had that baby. What I would say, no more than 4 weeks later.
Yeah, she was pregnant and still doing the surgery with her partner, and they did it 7. It was 7 hours. But I think it was longer, but
I think it was longer than 7 hours too. But that's what they quoted.
During the recovery, we're recovering, and we go back to see the breast cancer surgeon. They then send you to an oncologist,
right? And I'm again like, hold up. Why are you sending me to this extra doctor? Why do I need an oncologist? I'm good. You removed everything. You said there was nothing in the lymph nodes. You confirmed stage 1. You removed everything. Why?
I'm sorry. You did. That's right. You were stage 1. I'm glad you brought that up. We didn't mention that. You were stage 1 breast cancer, but you had breast cancer in both breasts. So
yes, and different kinds in both breasts. There was some tests they did. I think after the surgery, they tested. I don't know, because it seemed like they said I could get away with just a single mastectomy, but they tested for something like the rate of recurrence in the other breast, and that came back relatively high. So they said something about they were glad that I went ahead and removed both.
Okay.
I just, that was maybe a vanity thing. I just wanted a matching set of whatever I had. Just when I look in the mirror, I wanted to feel comfortable. So, and plus, like you said, I had it in both breasts. So I was like, why am I prolonging this? Let's just go ahead and remove, and let's start over. I felt that gave me the best chance of survival and the best chance of a positive medical outcome. But they did say, there was a lot going on. So they did say that. But then, yes, they said, I'm going to refer you to an oncologist. And I really didn't understand, but they did talk about rate of recurrence. And one thing that I did do that I appreciated is I did a lot of research on my own. Right. Like they would tell me certain phrases and certain terms, and I kind of hold them in my head until I maybe get in the car and I start Googling. And I did order a book that really ended up being very complete, but it helped me to understand why they made the referral to the oncologist. The rate of recurrence, probably in all cancers, but of course, I'm researching breast cancer, but the rate of recurrence is really high, specifically when you're a young diagnosis or early diagnosis. So since I'm not yet 50, I'm 47. I'll be 48 at the end of this month. I'm considered an early diagnosis. Most women with breast cancer are diagnosed after 50 years old or after menopause. So I'm considered an early diagnosis. And they kept saying, oh, well, you're so young. You have so many more years to live. We need to get you, make sure that everything's in order. And I'm like, I'm not that young. Like, what are y'all talking about? I couldn't really understand or grasp what they were saying. But in the reading and the research that I did, it helped me to understand the whole rate of recurrence, that basically microscopic cancer cells could still be floating in my body that may be undetectable by whatever the medical equipment is that they have, and they needed to run some tests on the tissue that I had removed to see what that rate of recurrence could possibly be. That's essentially why they referred me to an oncologist. And I got that. That's basically gathering information from not only what they said in the office, but what I've gathered in my readings.
So we get to the oncologist. Everything seems to be weird. You know, you're still recovering from these surgeries. You're still getting yourself together. So at the time you were seeing your breast cancer surgeon for a while, then you were still seeing the plastic surgeon. So we was at one time seeing 3 doctors. And then it was the plastic surgeon we were still seeing for a while.
It was a bit of a musical chairs kind of situation going on. Yeah, so I think I saw her maybe for the first time. It probably was late July. I want to say it was late July. I want to say the results came back maybe early August.
Yeah.
I want to say.
So she goes and she does more tests.
Yes.
And they do a test that we didn't know about. What's called and you can go into this a little deeper. It's more of a recurrence test, or a genetic recurrence.
Yeah, oncotype, or there's a couple of names for it, but I think mine was the oncotype. Something along those lines. And I don't really want to get into the number because I've seen kind of conflicting information.
Yeah.
But basically what she explained was that my number was kind of in the moderate high range. There was a low range where she said, if this comes back here, we won't recommend chemo. And there was a high range where she said, if it comes back here, we will recommend chemo. Well, my number was 1 digit less than the beginning of the high range. So another thing she did, you know, you have to read people's body language. And once she was coming back with the results, she came in, she got her little stool and she brought it really close to me. And in my mind, I'm like, okay. Like that told me all I needed to know. I didn't even need to know the details.
I was like, when she did that, I was like, you can't tell it from over there. Why you gotta roll up?
Right.
What's the problem? You could tell us.
Exactly. I was like, okay, so in my mind, I said, okay, she's gonna tell me I gotta do chemo. She explains, she shows me the numbers, she gives me all the digits, all the data. My head's spinning again, but she ends with, you know, we feel chemotherapy will be best at this time. I remember they wanted to do chemo like immediately. But at that point, our younger daughter was heading to college.
Yep.
And if I had started, I would not have been available to help her get situated. Our older daughter, I think they started a week apart, but it was going to happen like smack dab in the middle of our younger daughter transitioning. And I explained that to her. I asked her, could we do, you know, can you just let me get this child to school? Please. Let me get this child to school. So she agreed. So that's what we did. Got her situated. And I think like the following Monday was my first chemo date, which came with its own share of drama.
So they recommend chemo, but they recommend it, you know, once every 3 weeks. They didn't say back to back. They want you to do it once every 3 weeks for 4 over a period of time. We're currently halfway through. We've done 2.
Right.
But you've already brought it up, and I want to talk about it because I'm telling y'all, Jennifer's story is always a little bit different from what we've heard than everything. Thank you, Auntie.
Yes, thank you.
You're very strong, Jennifer. Thank you for the comment. So you're sitting down, and we've got the place sorted as Kennesaw. We's at the cancer center. You're sitting down. Let me just preface, they was about to put Jen and hook her up because she did it through IV. She doesn't have a port. And she said, hey, won't you just go home and get the groceries that are being dropped off at the house? And I walk away and I go home and everything's ready. Tell us about what happened when they are hooking you up and you about to take your first round of chemotherapy.
Okay, so they explain I'm doing 2 chemos, 1 back to back. and they explained the first infusion's gonna take an hour. They go through all the side effects and all of this and the that and the da 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 da. So they laid it out for me. Fine. So we start with the first drug. They said this one's gonna take about an hour. Okay, fine. So I'm hooked up and I have a little video thing that I do with some of my friends. So I had started a little video. And at this point, they had gave me the IV, the medicine's coming on through. Okay, fine, great. All of a sudden, I'm trying to think which symptom was first. I think I got no.
And which one was this one? Can you tell me which chemo was this?
This was the Taxotere.
Taxotere, right?
Taxotere. That was the medicine they gave me. I can't remember which symptom was first, but I had a series of 4. I had a bad reaction to Taxotere.
So everything they said in the warnings that could happen
happened in about 60 seconds.
And by you, I'm going to get groceries because I'm thinking I got time to come back. This is going to be 4 or 5 hours, but just keep going. So it was.
I'm like, let's just knock it out. All of a sudden, I don't remember, something was first. I'm forgetting right now, but I know I closed my eyes. I opened my eyes and I saw white spots everywhere. Then all of a sudden, okay, I think nausea was first. Strong nausea. And I was like, wait, I thought I was supposed to get nauseous after chemo, not during chemo. That didn't make sense. I think I closed my eyes and I saw the white spots. And I'm like, this isn't right. Because in my mind, I'm a mental health professional. I'm like, am I hallucinating? What is going on here? Then it went from that to heat. It felt like somebody set me on fire.
Wow.
Whoosh. It just came over me. Whoosh. All of a sudden. And I don't know how I communicated it to the nurses because there was a lot of people getting chemo. It's a big room. A lot of people getting chemo. Everybody's in those nice, big old comfy chairs. And there's a lot of nurses running around. And somehow I think between the nausea and the white spots, I think I had raised my hand. But after that, I wasn't able to really communicate with anybody. So after it feels like somebody set me on fire, I hear the people talking and I'm like, I'm hot. That's like all I have the energy to even say. I'm hot. And the lady is like, and I heard somebody say a hot flash. I'm like, I just shook my head. No, this was not a hot flash. Somebody set me on fire. That's what it felt like. I felt like I was about 300, 400 degrees all of a sudden. Then it went from that. I'm still feeling hot, but then I get this severe pain. Like I can literally feel my pelvis bone, like the whole wide bone, and like somebody sending like electrical currents through my pelvis. It was awful. It was awful all at once. It was horrible. All I can hear, I guess my eyes are closed. I don't know. I'm not seeing anything, but I'll just hear the nurses giving me Benadryl, checking my blood pressure went up to like 150 something over 120 something. It's never that high.
Yeah.
I'm a good 120 over 80 person. My BP shot up. They were giving me Benadryl. They stuck oxygen in my nose. I'm not really sure when they did that. But in a couple of minutes, I'm coming around. And my husband is gone.
I was told that.
So what I was told was, you're having a bad reaction to the chemo. We have to stop it at this time. And we're going to have to kind of regroup and figure out what we're going to do. I had never known anybody to have a bad reaction to chemo. I didn't know that was even a thing. So yeah, I'm the one who would have the extra circumstances, but that's what happened. So long story short, they had to hook me up with another doctor who did like a desensitization procedure. And that allowed me to be able to accept the Taxotere. So now I was still set up with the 4 rounds of chemo, 1 every 3 weeks. So now I'm at the point where I've done 2 out of the 4 rounds. On Tuesday, we start round 3.
Yeah. And just about that, you now, because of the incident and the allergic reaction, you take one part of the chemo on Tuesday in one spot, and then you do the Taxotere, which is the one that created this. You do it at a whole different spot, and it's the longer process because they give it to you in a slow drip process. So that's another thing that we can probably, if people ask, we can talk about that. And one shot at him, I couldn't understand why the oncologist was needed also. I'm so glad she educated me. I knew of breast cancer, but I had no idea about the process and the aftercare, especially chemo.
Yeah, I've gotten quite the education. And then even with the education that I've gotten, it's nowhere near the vast information that's out there with breast cancer, with the different types of breast cancer. There's just so much out there. But it's been quite the experience. So, and let me just, before we wrap up, so this lovely,
I'm about to say, I want to go two things before we wrap up.
Wrap
up. When you're going through the chemo and the hair loss, you've had hair. How did that make you feel? What was that for you?
I was trying to prepare myself. So I did join about 3 or 4 different breast cancer support groups on Facebook. And that's been a mixed bag. It's very hard to see people, so-and-so got their wings yesterday. That I don't like those posts.
Right.
At all. But I learned a lot of information. So one of the big questions was, when did you start losing your hair? Which medicine caused you to lose your hair? So I knew the Taxotere was a big culprit for hair loss. But actually both of the ones that I take, I can't remember the second med, but both of them, that's just a side effect. It just is. So so after my first round, people would say that they lost their hair about 2 or 3 weeks after they started chemo. So that was in the back of my mind, that just be prepared, be ready. So literally, it was a little less than 2 weeks after chemo. One Sunday morning, hair just started. I couldn't stop it. I even had a friend, she was like, stop combing your hair. How am I gonna stop combing my hair? I have to comb my hair. Every time I would comb, though, it was just a whole mound of hair. Now in the fall, typically my hair will shed, but I'm like, this isn't shedding hair. No, it was really like, I would do this and come with my husband didn't like that, but I would do this and come with a big wad of hair. It was just releasing. It was just releasing. And there was nothing I could do. So it started on a Sunday, and the following Friday, I went to your barber and just went ahead and, because actually it was patchy.
Yeah,
it was thin. I a couple of days I tried to camouflage it.
Yeah. But you know what? Jennifer went on her second one. She went with the nice fro to the Mary J. Blige concert. Tell her what it is.
Yes, I did.
You didn't
have to do all of that. But yes, I did. I don't think that I look too bad.
No,
with it.
Look great.
I'm accepting it. I'm embracing it. I'm okay with it. It's funny. Everybody's not okay with my bald head.
We've been a few spots when they've been staring.
I've had some responses, not directly
like, what are you looking at? Well,
but it's funny, when I went to the Mary J. Blige concert, that I was very well received. Yes, I did. Brenda said yes. I had to rock my bald head, and I was very well received. I didn't have no negative responses.
So I want to do this before we go. Our support circle has been phenomenal.
Absolutely.
One of the people, Candy Mitchell, she was one of the ones. She was one of the first people we called, to John, to our families, to everybody who.
Yes. To my church family who fed me.
Talk about the support circle and what they meant to you during this process.
The support circle has been awesome, and it's essential. Like, I don't know how you go through this alone. I don't. Be it family and friends, be it having a support group. I don't see how you can do this alone. You got to do it with somebody. And now let me say this. Each person dealing with their diagnosis it's individualized. So everybody's got to go through it in their own way. And I get that. And I don't think anybody should be pressured to do this or do that, or, do it in this way and that way. Everybody's got to have their own thing, but you need the love and support and just somebody to just hold your hand and be there for you. it's crucial. Like I don't know how you can get through this, because it's tremendous on you, it's tremendous on your family, just in every way, shape, and form. It's going to have an impact. But I think the best way to get through this is with your support team, whomever that might be.
All right. And that's what we are both in agreement with. So thank you to everybody. Yes, she did rock it. Everybody said you look great with it. We appreciate y'all.
It's still a little bit up there, but it's I don't know. I feel baldness still coming up. So it's probably by the end of chemo, it will be fully gone. There's peach fuzz. There's a little peach fuzz up there, but my balding areas, they're creeping up this way. So
yeah. We got two more to go. Your last chemo is November, first week or second week in November?
Second week in November.
Yeah.
8th and 9th, I want to say, something like that.
So we're going to ring that bell loud and be happy. Thank you, Kim, for the compliments. We appreciate that.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Kim.
What would you leave your final message for today? I want to also say, on here, we are hoping to, if you have a story you want to tell your story, I want to open this network up, the OTV Media Network, for anybody out there who has somebody who wants to tell their story. Me and Jennifer, either I can do the interview, Jennifer can do it, y'all can have a conversation, whatever you want to do. We want to open up this network to allow you to it, because the network is talking about healthy conversations. And even though Breast Cancer Awareness Month is 1 month, breast cancer is all year long, so it doesn't have a time frame. So we want y'all to know that you have a network you can come to. Your last thing, Jen, before you go, I think you got a client, so anyway.
I do.
Just give us a minute. What's your last message that you want to tell everybody?
I just really want to encourage everybody to get their mammograms, follow up with their doctors. I totally understand the things that we have that get in the way of seeing doctors and being compliant with doctors, and even feeling that they have our best interest at heart. I get that. And I really think everybody should work with a doctor whom they get a good feeling from and that they feel like they can trust. That's important. But be compliant with your regular checkups. I hate mammograms, but I really feel a mammogram saved my life. So our mammograms, our GYN appointments, our dental appointments, there's a ton of things that we like that are uncomfortable, but how long is that discomfort? Right. Maybe a dental appointment that lasts at the most an hour. Yeah. GYN appointments don't last that long. Mammograms really don't last that long. I get the things that get in our way: insurance, time, the money that's involved. All of those things are true, but money comes and goes. But our life that's all we have. All we have is our temple, and we have to take care of it. We have to take care of it, and that's our responsibility. Yes, our doctors are the earthly beings that help us through it, but it's our responsibility. And I just encourage everyone, despite whatever's getting in the way, see about yourself, love yourself, take care of yourself.
And we'll leave it at that. Thank you all for joining. You can watch this recording on our YouTube and Facebook pages. Have a great day. A great story. Thank you, Jennifer, for sharing. We appreciate it.
Thank you. And, all right. I'm going to run because I got a client.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Have a great day. We'll see you again next time.